Topic Setter, a show that covers all aspects of life, relationship, and success. And I'm your host, Dr. Anna Elton. And we have a special guest today, Dr. George James. So we're going to go by Dr. George. So, welcome, Dr. George. I know you have a lot of interesting insight to share with us. You have a new book coming out in January. I'm really excited and looking forward to read your book. I give myself permission. So, Dr. George, he's also a therapist, he's a coach, he's CEO of George Docs, and international speaker. So, welcome, Dr. George.
Dr. Anna, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome. I love just any opportunity to share, but especially with someone else who is in the profession, knows the background, knows the jargon, knows all the things. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. So, before we jump into our interesting insights, let me get to know you a little bit. So, when you think of the permission, and I know your book talks about permission, what permission you were not able to give yourself for the longest time?
Hmm. Actually, one of the first things that comes to mind was that I started my career helping couples, and I still do a lot of that. And I saw that like lots of couples go through lots of different things, and therapy was good, but I would often encourage them to have date nights.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with this idea of like a date night event, and for years I kept telling myself I can't do it. I like at that point I didn't have my doctorate. I'm like I need to have my doctorate. And then it was I needed to have money, and then I needed to have enough folks. And I kept just saying all these reasons why it couldn't happen, and it really was I was just scared. I was nervous because I was doing something different. I was putting music, a theater, and like a TED talk like talk all together in one immersive experience. And so it took me years before I finally did it. And then I was fortunate to get a fellowship. And then that provided a little bit of money. And then it was like, I just got to do it. And so in 2017, I did it. 2018, I did it. Then didn't have funding. Then the pandemic. Then I came back in 23, and 24, and 25. And it's been a hit, and people have just loved it. So I'm glad I give myself permission, but it took me a little bit to do it.
Absolutely. And I feel like we always have the goals, but there's so many barriers. Or like we think we have barriers, right?
Yes.
And I always tell my clients to take a step back and think, look at the bigger picture, because in reality, you can find ways, right? You can find ways to give yourself permission.
Yes. Yes,
And
definitely.
so let me ask you a little bit about, being an author. What does it mean? Is this is your first book? Have you done this before? Was this is, you know, I know, difficult journey, easy journey? How did it all started, and how did you get here to, having your book being released next month, less than a month, right?
Yeah, less than a month, and I'm so excited, and it's still like one of those thoughts of like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening because I've been working towards it, as you know, for a while, and to know that it's actually on its way.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I think about it, like I've been a part of book projects before. I actually say like I've been a part of group projects. It's like I was a part of a boy band and now I'm going solo, right? So I've been a part of things, and in particular, I've been a part of self-published books. I've had chapters in textbooks. I've seen other people go through the process. I've helped people in my family uh, publish books, from my wife doing her own children's book, which was amazing, to my daughter doing her own coloring book for young kids. And then it was like, all right, it is my time to do my own project. And I really wanted to be connected to a traditional publisher, and grateful for that opportunity. And, the stories I've heard before is the stories I live, that like there's sometimes a lot of no's, and you just need that one yes. And or there's people who say you can't do it, or there's people who doubt you, and then you got to believe in yourself. And as the book talks about, I have to give permission to myself and believe it's possible, and I did. And even through all the ups and downs, I just needed that one yes for the agent, and then I just needed that one yes for the publisher, and it's been really great. But it's a longer process. It took me, some years to get the yeses in those categories, and then once I got the yes, it's probably took about 18 months to get to this place of actually producing it. 9 months to write it, and 9 more months for them to do all the fun stuff, the cover, the edits, all the promotion, and now less than 30 days it will be out.
That's exciting. So let's talk a little bit about how do you even get to this place where you are right now with publishing, right? Because I feel like a lot of, I mean, maybe some viewers listening in and they wondering, like how do I get to be published, especially traditional published? Because when you think of writing the book, always you need to ask yourself, what do I want to write about, right? Which genre I want to write about? Is it fiction, nonfiction? Do I write it for adults, for kids, for teens, right? Who is my audience? And then also, like, what message do I want to relate to my audience, right? So there's a lot of things that you need to answer before you even start thinking, right? So same with agents, once you have an idea, and I just want to share with our audience that, it's different with like nonfiction and fiction because with fiction, you have to write the whole book, right?
Whole thing.
You need to have a full manuscript. It needs to be fully done, right? And before you can even start reaching out to agents. And the tricky part about it that, you have the full manuscript, you invested 6, 9 months, 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, right? And then, the manuscript that you spend so many hours and I don't know, sleepless nights and like tears, right? And then now you're hearing no, and
No.
then like what's going on? How come they didn't like it? For nonfiction, I don't want to say it's a little bit easier, but it's like less riskier, I guess, because you come up, but you need to have an amazing idea, right? So you come up
Yeah.
with the idea, and then you need to create the proposal, right? You need to write a few chapters to show your style, right? And you need to still sell your idea. So pretty much, you they buy your idea without even seeing the full product, which is, I guess, good for the authors, right? Nonfiction authors, but I guess it's a gamble for publishers to some degree.
Yeah, and like you said, like yeah, it's a gamble because they hope that what they've seen so far is what you'll actually produce. And I've had, friends and colleagues who have done the fiction route, and it's a lot. And they are beautiful writers and amazing in what they do, but it's also hoping that you line up with the right agent or the right publisher. And I love your story, Dr. Anna, and how like you like pushed against the grain and defeated the odds and defeated what people were telling you. And I felt like the same for myself, like knowing that like it is possible. And a lot comes with like the theme of my book is giving yourself permission. And I had to give myself permission to believe in myself, believe that what I have to offer is something that other people would resonate with and that a publisher would say yes. And even if they say no, that someone would say yes. So I had to hold on to that along the way. And I think like some of it was also learning. It was funny because I was in my MBA, executive MBA program while I was doing my proposal, and it really clicked because before when I thought of proposals, like, okay, I got to give them a little bit of how I'd market. I got to give a little bit of how I do PR and also have a great idea. But while I was in my MBA program, I realized, no, I have to sell this.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be clear about how will this go forward? How will I sell this to all the different audiences? What is the persona? What is the people that I am speaking to?
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear about the marketing, be clear about the publicity, be clear about what I want to do as well as the actual idea. And so it's a process, and I learned a lot, and also I got a lot of help and support along the way, which I'm so grateful for.
So let me ask you about your journey to find an agent, right? Because with traditional publishing, first you need to get an agent because they're the gatekeeper to big five, right, and big publishers. So what was your journey?
Yeah, so initially, over the years, I've thought about writing a book, and through someone else who had an agent, connected me to theirs, and we worked together for a few years, and it just didn't kind of happen. And then we ended that relationship respectfully, and then it got closer to this place where like I felt like I had the idea, the thing that could move me forward. This I give myself permission. And a friend of mine had just finished publishing her book, and she said, like, oh, if you want to talk to my agent, I'll connect you. And she did. Her agent really worked well with her and worked well with other known authors. And I felt like it was a good fit. The agent liked me, and that was kind of one of those things I get. Well, people like me, they like what I
Mhm.
have to offer, they like my background, but it just didn't feel like the idea at the time was maybe fully shaped. And
Mhm.
so she said, "Hey, why don't you work on it some?" I did. Came back. She's like, "Ah, still not. Work on it some more." And then she's like, "Why don't you get some support?" And I got some support, and it still didn't really vibe with her the way that she wanted or the way I wanted. So then that sent me on a place of like going to seek out other agents, and I was sending query letters. I was letting them know about what I was doing, and then I had two options, and I interviewed them, right, and had conversations with them, and then in having the conversation, the agent that I went with, Regina Brooks, she was just really great because she gave me time. Like everyone, time is limited. We all are busy, but she gave me a lot of time, especially as we were starting off, to talk through my proposal, to talk through my idea, to give me examples, to give me ways to tweak it, and I really respected that, and that
Mhm.
was a lot. And I said, "All right, we're gonna go together," and then that's how we started working together.
That's awesome. I love the story. So I had, I guess similar story, right? To some degree. So I was writing books for kids,
Oh
self-publishing,
wow, nice.
and therapeutic books for kids that I started writing 2020, right? So it kind of the time and place for the books.
Yeah.
But then, I was thinking maybe I'll write, nonfiction, maybe not. And then at some point I realized that, or so, like, I guess I talked to a lot of people and I was given advice that I should focus on what I'm good at, right? Which
Mhm.
is therapy, right? And something that I, can share with my, like a nonfiction style with the audience. And that's when I started focusing on nonfiction, right?
Mm.
And I had an idea and I write a proposal. So then I sent it in and I got responses, some within 20 minutes, some within
Oh, that's
24
awesome.
hours, and I had five responses within 24 hours, and then I had my agent um, interview 48 hours after I started submitting the book.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I signed it 48 hours. And I mean, I gave myself 24 hours to think about it, and then I signed it. And then I had my contract another month in.
Oh, that's great. And I think that that is a testament to how hard you worked and how well your proposal was, and your platform and what you had to offer. And I think that I wish everyone that level of ease and success. And I think that I was also prepared because I had other authors who are best-selling authors and doing well say like their initial journey wasn't always easy, and that sometimes you have both, right? You sometimes you can put it out there and it hits right away. It's done well. You connect with the right people, and then sometimes you have to believe. Like one author told me he had, I think, over like an enormous number of rejections,
Mm-hmm.
and had to just really believe in themselves. And that helped me when I was getting some rejections, to believe like, you know what, it's still possible. And I love that, like, that you can have something in 48 hours and get a yes and a contract, and you can have something in months to maybe almost a year, and be able to produce something on both ways that can be helpful.
But this is where, my story sounds easy, right? So, like, I got science right away, right? But my journey with children's books was
Mm,
way different, right? So that's when I started reaching out to agents and I was hearing no after no after no. That's when I took a step back and I said, my goal is to be traditionally published, and how can I get into the
yeah,
world of traditionally published, right? So I gave myself permission
yeah,
not to give up, right? And then
good.
see what else can I offer, right? That's where, like, instead of saying like, okay, something wrong with me, I should stop. I said, like, let me continue, but let me figure out my plan.
No, I love that. And it sounds like, once again, that you were able to really look at what you needed to work on, change, and adjust. And I think, like, for a lot of folks out there, and I think for me, that I have a decent, moderate size following on my social media platforms. But they were looking for something that was a little bit more stronger and robust. And I feel like if I had that, that would have helped earlier on. And that was something that I started to work on and to be better with and how I show up on social media. And it's not like the biggest part of my work, but it's an important part. And it's an important part, especially in doing something that's more public facing. Like if it's about getting clients, no, not necessarily. It's word of mouth. But but being able to have a good social media following was important. And I've seen the impact of even some of my growth in some of my platforms, and I would imagine maybe for you that might have been also a part of it for you in how you might show up on social media.
Yeah. And you need to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I was just talking to my middle son, he's 10. And, he was, working on something. He's like, oh, I'm so bad at this. And I said, well, before you can be good at something, you start with being bad. And then you'll keep going
yes,
forward, you keep trying, keep working, and then you'll be good and hopefully even great at this. So
yeah.
you need to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, I love that, and that's really also part of this thought of giving yourself permission. Is that a lot of times, even when I mentioned about the date night event, or even pushing through the challenges of getting a traditional publisher, or even other things, sometimes we can say no to ourselves. And what I found for myself and others is that we often will say no faster than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
And before the thought or question is even formed in our minds or asked, we will say no. And that's the place where we need to give ourselves permission to like really stink at something, permission to work hard at something, permission to face rejection, permission to believe in yourself. And I think that's been part of my journey
Mm-hmm.
and what I encourage others and what I try to like embody myself.
So how about imposter syndrome? I feel like it's a big one that keeps coming up for a lot of people. I mean, I personally experience this a lot in my day-to-day life, and sometimes you're doing something you think it's great, but then another day you wake up it's like, I don't know what I'm doing here, I'm not sure if this is good enough, right? You have your ups and downs, and it's totally normal. So how do you feel about imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. It is very normal, and I feel it. And depending on the day, I could feel it multiple times. I've found ways to work with it or push against it to not let it dictate what I do or don't do. But it's a very normal feeling. And actually, part of, the book actually came out of a keynote that I give with the same title called I Give Myself Permission. And in one of the things that I share with the audiences across the country, is about imposter syndrome and how a lot of times we feel like everyone knows so much more
Mhm.
and we know so little. When the truth is, we probably know either just about the same, and in a lot of cases, we might actually know more than they do. And there's this quote that I share, and the premise of the quote is that really other people are looking at you at your potential while you are thinking that you have all these deficits, right? Like,
Mhm.
and if we could just see ourselves the way other people see us, and for me, imposter syndrome can come up in lots of ways, especially when I'm doing something new.
Mhm.
Like talking about the book and the book process, I would, or even social media, I would look at other people who had many more followers, and I'm like, oh, they are gonna do it. Of course, they might have it easier. When they don't have it easier, that's the story I tell myself and the narrative. And then I realized, oh no, like what really got me was also recognizing that like sometimes I can be so focused on looking at where somebody else is that I forget how far I've come, and that a lot of people are looking at me, right? I've had lots of great opportunities to speak or lots of opportunities to be on national TV, and people were like, "Oh, I wish I had that," and I can easily forget that, and that is what I think imposter syndrome does. It makes us forget the good and great things that we do and focus on things that are really small or not really significant, and we belittle ourselves. So I try really hard to give myself permission to not fall to the trap of trying to say I'm less than or I'm not enough. The truth is, I'm doing good. I'm working. I'm getting better. The things that stink are now a little bit better. The things that were okay are now good. And if I hold that mindset, I can really push back the imposter syndrome.
So I'm thinking about the power of yet, right? I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Is there any mantras or like any exercises that help you to feel better to overcome the imposter syndrome to push yourself outside your comfort zone?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is also looking at the evidence, right? Like, so to your point of like, I'm not there yet. And sometimes what has helped me is like, oh, I've done this before,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've overcome challenges before. I've heard rejections before, like seeing people say no now. Like, well, at one point in my career, I was going to grad school to be a therapist and also learning to be an actor. I was going on auditions. I heard no all the time. I
Mm-hmm.
can handle no, right? And I know like I just got to get to a yes, right? And I got to work on it. So I think like some of the things I tell myself is that like, oh no, you've done this before, or like you could do this, or look how many times you've overcome challenges. Of course you can do it again. And a lot of it is also for me, like getting to the place of why not me? Like
Mm-hmm.
if it can happen for whomever, I believe it can also happen for me. And then I hope that people get to the place of, well, if it happens for him, it
Mm-hmm.
can hopefully happen for me.
If he can do it, if she can do it, I can do it too.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I always tell myself, I remind my clients, whenever you feel down, just have the little mantra: "Who's awesome? I'm awesome. Who's
No.
awesome? I'm awesome." And
Yes.
cheer up, right? And then
I love that. That's
you
awesome.
smile, and you feel better. And then sometimes when you have no, it's okay to give yourself time to breathe. And I mean, it can be a few minutes, it could be a few hours, sometimes for some people a few days, right?
Yes.
But it is what it is. You breathe, you get over it, and then you keep moving forward.
Oh yeah, there were definitely moments where it felt hard to hear no, especially like when you gear yourself up and you do the mantras and you're ready, and then you feel like this is gonna be it, and then you get hit with the no. It can be deflated, and that's really when you practice, for me, the gratitude, when I practice the belief, when I practice my faith, when I practice those things that are important to me, and then I'm ready to say like, you know what, not yet. I'm not giving up yet. I'm not throwing in the towel. I still believe, I still think it's possible, and I'm still giving myself permission to keep trying.
So let me ask you a little bit about your book.
Yeah.
So, for our viewers, what can they learn from your book? Okay. And also where they can find it.
Yeah, what I love about what I've been able to do and actually just see people respond to it. I've seen leaders and executives and CEOs. I've seen athletes and entertainers. I've seen men and women. I've seen folks of different backgrounds and ethnicities. I've seen folks who are working uh, multiple jobs to try to make ends meet. I've seen folks who might be single parents. I've seen people, I've seen young folks, I've seen college students, people in different backgrounds have been able to really resonate with this thought of giving themselves permission. And what I share in the book is an extension of my keynote where I really help people to realize there are barriers that we experience to giving ourselves permission. And those barriers make us put ourselves lower on the list, that those barriers that we experience make us think that we can't do it, and or not now or not me, and as a result we are not doing the things that we necessarily want to do. We're not practicing self-care. We're not spending time with our child or grandchild. We will say, and I have said this, oh, just one more email and I'll be over and I'll spend time. And it's never one more email. It's multiple. And so the book really pulls and encourages people to think about, one, being aware of the barriers that they face. And I go through four specific barriers. I go through societal stress and those things that come with it. I go with leadership stress. I talk about injustice stress and things that are just not fair. And I talk about family of origin stress, as you would know, like these things that we experience, and how when you put one or all of those together, somewhere we learn not to give ourselves permission.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you're aware of that, a big part of the book is our narrative. What is the narrative you are telling yourself? Like what we just said, like we have ways of mantras of how to fight against imposter syndrome or how to tell yourself you're awesome. But many people don't have ways to tell themselves it's okay, or you can get there, or you can overcome it. And my hope is that through the book, they'll be able to say, I can give myself permission to forgive, to love and be loved, to not be perfect, to take risks, to heal from my trauma, to change family scripts, or even to play and rest, right? That there are ways that you can give yourself permission, and then maybe ultimately giving yourself permission to practice self care. So those are the things that people can get from the book. And right now, it is available for pre-order. It is scheduled to be released on January 2nd of 2026, which is right around the corner. People can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Books a Million, Bookshop, uh, Apple Books. It's everywhere. You can find it.
I love that. So, as the book about to be released, are you going on book tours, book signing? Are you doing anything where audience can connect with you, where they can meet in person?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, just recently, someone shared with me that I didn't think about it this way. Is that I've had the fortunate ability uh, to speak in lots of places. Just in the past month and a half, I've been in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was in Charlotte. I was in Philadelphia, which is more of my background and backyard. I was in Tucson, Arizona, and I was just in Puerto Rico. And so someone mentioned, like, it sounds like you've been on a pre-book tour. And so
Mhm.
I've done that, been in front of audiences, and then, yes, when the book comes out, I definitely will be doing things. Right now, I hope to do things across the country. I'm hoping, one, that there are places where people will invite me,
Mhm.
and then there are places where I'm planning to show up. I'm hoping to go to, once again, I said, in Philadelphia, New York, DC, Baltimore, up and down the East Coast, but also the Midwest, like Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, and then the West Coast, LA, and maybe even some cities down south, Atlanta, and surrounding areas. So I'm working on that, and that the full tour schedule I'll have on my website, and people can find that when they go there, or just continue to follow me, because I hope to show up a whole bunch of places.
Absolutely, I love that. And we're gonna cover it again in the end of the show. But where can people find you and your book again? So, what's the website, social media handle?
Yeah, so the best way is my website is georgetalks.com, and then my social media that I use for the most part, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm also on X, but those first two, my handle is at George Talks. The best way to get me. And then once again, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Books a Million, you can find I Give Myself Permission there.
I love that. So let me shift this conversation a little bit and let me hear a little bit more about your work with couples, um, leadership roles, and anything and everything that could be helpful.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Dr. Anna, I started off this work really wanting to help men in particular. Like when I started doing this work 24 plus years ago, men didn't really show up to therapy like that, and then men of color didn't really show up to therapy. And so working with men and then working with couples was my kind of first two major areas where I wanted to help couples have better relationships or heal from hurt, pain, infidelity, challenges that they might have, and that's been a major part of my work. And then working with couples, working with men, working with college students. That led to working with fathers and parents. That led to working with athletes and entertainers. That led to working with executives and leaders. And as I did that, from the very beginning, I realized, and maybe the same for you, that I loved doing therapy in the therapy room, but I wanted to take the therapy themes and messages outside. I wanted to meet people where in organizations. I wanted to speak. I wanted to do media, and I had those opportunities to help more people than just the folks that I was working with in my office. And then my work expanded. It went from not only just doing therapy, but executive coaching, where I blend some therapy stuff with some coaching for leaders, for heads of schools, for CEOs, for athletes and entertainers. And then, that led me to doing more speaking engagements, including consulting for companies, for-profit, non-profit, philanthropy, and then doing my keynote, my signature keynote, which is, like I said, it brought me across the country in lots of places, and I'm looking forward to it bringing me to across the world in other countries. And it's just been an honor and a privilege to take things that you and I maybe are passionate about and have studied and have learned and lived. Because I try to live the things that I talk about and then share them with people in various ways. I love like working with family foundations or family owned businesses and using my therapy work and my business knowledge to help them navigate challenges and family dynamics that could disrupt their business. That all came from working with couples and families and bringing that into now a business context. And so I've loved the different places I've been able to show up in my work, and it's just been fun.
I love that. I mean, for me personally, when I do, all these different things like therapy and books and speaking, I feel like, I mean, first of all, it helps me not to be burned out, right?
Yeah,
Because when I have like different venues where I can express myself and also push myself outside of comfort zone.
yeah.
Because I'm just thinking, first time when you had the presentation, right? I'm sure it was challenging, right? I remember when I spoke at the first conference and that was in 2017, and I was like, what am I doing here? How is it going to be? And then when it went amazing, I was like, wow, I really like that, and I was like, okay, I want to speak more. And then, when I started writing, first when I, started writing, I was not sure, like I always loved creative writing, but then I was not sure if I'm good at this, right? And then when I started getting praise, I was like, maybe I am good at this. Maybe they see something I don't see. And again, like you're just trying something new, you're trying something that you're afraid, but you're still doing it, right? You're giving yourself permission.
That's right. Yeah, and I love that. And you're right. Like, having these diverse ways to do the work, and it is keeps you from burnout because I do enjoy it. And I've learned because I would have a lot of clients, a lot of things, and moving all the ways. And I've learned also to manage my time. And for me, actually, the pandemic was a pivotal point. I went from closing the office or being, ending at 9 and 10, and getting home at 10 or 11, and maybe seeing my kids, and I'm there helping people, but not always having as much quality time as I wanted. And the pandemic brought everybody home, and I was doing some therapy online or some work online, but it moved it to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I love being able to say, like, I have 6 p.m. dinner with my family for the most part, give or take, right? There might be a day or two, but I didn't before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that we can hang out and do things more because my family is important to me. And, and I made more of a commitment to say, like, well, I'm going to protect that time. I'm going to give myself permission to know that it's okay and it will work out. So I love like what you're saying in terms of it has prevented me from burnout. It has allowed me to know what my limits are. It's allowed me to have fun in my life, within my marriage, within my family. And then it's also, to your point, allowed me to try things and iterate and try again and learn from other people. And so, and to your point, and then realize, well, yeah, I'm actually pretty good at this. And so I love what you've shared about your journey, and I can definitely relate to that.
So one point I'm thinking about like is having fun, right? When you're doing something. And sometimes when you're too invested, right? When you're too stressed, when you're too anxious about the outcome, you stop having fun. And I think it's
Yeah,
important to take a step back and say, like, I started this because I love it and I want to have fun. And
yeah,
it's so important, right? With like writing a book or like doing the speaking engagements, because, think of like, how much preparation it takes, right? You need to have a presentation, you need to put the research, and you need to back and go. And I mean, it just takes a lot, right?
it
And then
does.
sometimes you're just like so wrapped up like a hamster, in a
Mhm.
spin wheel. You just like spinning the wheel and it's just like, what am I doing here? But then when you take a step back and say, like, how can I have fun? So I actually, when I travel, for speaking engagements and appearances, I try to make mini vacations, with family, with my husband, right? And it's super, super important to have those like little getaways, right? And that's when I always try new experiences because it helps with connection and desire, right?
Yeah.
And something that we just, break out, like out of this, I guess, routine and groundhog day.
No, I love that, and I just recently did that. I was speaking opportunity in Puerto Rico, and I was able to go there. I did my speaking engagement, and then uh, I was able to extend my trip, and then my wife joined me, and so I was able to do that and spend time and impact and pour into other people, and then take time for myself. So actually follow the thing I encourage people to do, and and then my wife, who just finished like teaching and doing things for her university, she needed some time to recover and recharge. We were able to go to the spa. We were able to have good times, and it's those things that once again make it fun. And to your point, you're like writing the book, and just writing period, it's such a vulnerable experience. You're putting your thoughts together in a place where like people could have reactions to it,
Mm-hmm.
and being okay with that, and being okay with like, okay, this is me putting myself out there, and but this is what I believe in, and I got to the place where I was so hyper focused on like what the outcome was going to be. And I'm so grateful for one of my speaking opportunities after I spoke and encouraged other people, they were encouraging me. And it just allowed me to settle into like, you know, I've always been fine and it will always be okay. And whatever the outcome is, it will be okay. And I know that what I've worked on will be impactful, and that's what I'll lead with. And so I'm in a place of gratitude and excitement and fun, and not too tied up with the outcome. But it took some time to get there.
So I think another important point is giving yourself grace, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves. So we need to give ourselves grace. We need to remember that we're still a human being, right? We're not perfect. And it's totally fine.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what makes us us. So just make sure that we're giving that grace. And just remind ourselves what's going great, what's going well, what can we be grateful for.
It is so important to give yourself grace. It is something that I encourage other people to do, and it's something I believe in. And it's so quickly we can lose it, forget it, and get tied up. And that's what I found myself in, like all of a sudden just focusing on outcome. And on some level, like if we dig deeper, like, okay, well, how does the book do? And then you start to think like that means like something about you and your value and your ability. And it doesn't, right? There's many brilliant, amazing people who have not done well with their books. And there's many people who, well, could have been better and have done extremely well. And I think like being able to give yourself some compassion and grace is so important. And that's what I'm grateful when I'm able to find my way back there. And I usually do. And that I have a great support network. I have a great family. I have great people who love me and believe in me, and that I love me and believe in me. And so grace is just so important. And I'm glad that you do that as well.
So if you can give one piece of advice to our viewers, what would it be? Or maybe one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self.
Yeah. One of the things I think about is that sometimes we don't realize how amazing and great and talented and gifted we are. And sometimes it takes other people to remind us. Like, one of the things about this book that started in a talk, it felt like when I first did it, maybe 4+ years ago, it was something I was just doing normally. And the person that invited me to speak, I was speaking to this group of veterans, and I share the story in the book. And as I was sharing, they were all open and emotional and really invested. And the person who brought me in was like, man, this is your thing. And I just thought it was just another talk I was doing. And it was like, this is your thing. And it just, he helped me to believe in me and what I was doing. And I think that myself and many of us sometimes forget how amazing, how great, how talented, how smart, how special we are, and that because of that, we do need to give ourselves permission to share that with the people that we love, to go on that vacation, to read the book, to take the time to practice some self-care, because you are worth it and you deserve it and you are amazing. Not that you're better than anybody else, but that you are also great. And I think like that is what I try to hold on to for myself.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing this. That was amazing. Can you remind our viewers where they can find you, where they can find the book?
Yes, once again, this has been a pleasure, Dr. Anna, just talking to you and sharing with you and just collaborating with you. I give myself permission, comes out January 2nd. You can get it now, pre order it on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Books A Million, Target, all over. And you can find me at georgetalks.com is my website. My social media handle for LinkedIn and Instagram is at George Talks. Love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for watching, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you. Have a good night.
Your self-doubt